I would like to invite to the stage Mr. Peter Weldon, the Head of Institutional Client Relationships of Colonial First State Global Asset Management, the generous sponsor for World Refugee Day breakfast since 2007. Please make him feel welcome and let him know how grateful we are that they can continue to support this day.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to you. Lovely to see you here. I must say at the start that Marta has inspired me with her auctioneering tactic, so I thought I might do the same and offer off a period of time at my workplace. But you'll be glad to know I've rethought that. The very concept of lunch with me in our staff room with its instant coffee and the micro to heat up whatever's left over in the fridge for the last 2 weeks is really not that appealing. It's not really going to cut it. But thank you to those who have participated in that. It's very good to see you here this morning, and I'm just going to wrap up with a few words. A little anecdote, first of all, before I start. Several weeks ago, my wife and I had the great privilege of being in Turkey for the 100-year commemoration of the Anzac landings at Gallipoli. And we spent a little bit of time around Istanbul. And we went on a coach tour and did a few different things. And there's one particular memory that stands out very powerfully for both of us. And that's the image of some children at play. We saw them out of the bus window. And there they were, a bunch of little kids, probably 4, 5 or 6, mostly boys, a couple of girls in there, just doing what kids do, mucking around, jostling, and having a time of play. The power in the memory, though, is that they were at play on a 4-lane highway. And there was traffic all around them. There were trucks and there were buses like us and there were cars. And these kids were just sort of dodging and getting out of the way. There were horns blasting. Traffic wasn't speeding, but it certainly wasn't crawling. And we obviously didn't know the full circumstances there, but it was very clear that these kids were uncared for, in great danger of whatever or whoever might come up against them in a big city. And you thought, well, there's only a matter of time before something disastrous is going to happen. And it was when the tour guide pointed out that these were Syrian refugee kids on the street that it really started to hit home with me. Because it was 12 months ago we stood here, World Refugee Day breakfast, and we were raising funds for the Syrian crisis. And it brought back some very powerful memories. Thought particularly of our own children, and we weren't travelling with our kids. That was fantastic in itself. We left them at home, but they're slightly older, but you couldn't help but compare the two life experiences of these little kids on the street versus kids in our type of society with all the well-being that goes with that, safety and security, education, health, opportunity, the lot. It was a very stark reminder for me. Of course, the Syrian crisis, just one horrendous example around the world of what's happening with refugees. There's just no end of crises, and Nigeria is the latest that we're working with today. And there are millions in this sort of situation. I looked up some comments from Antonio Guterres, the UN High Commissioner for Refugees. He said, late last year he said this, global forced displacement has been rising steadily in recent years. In 2011, every single day, some 14,000 people worldwide were forced from their homes by war or violence. In 2012, it was 23,000 people a day. In 2013, it was 32,000 people a day around the world. This represents an exponential increase in displacement. At the end of 2013, over 51 million people were in displacement due to conflict and persecution. Of course, we've heard more updated figures today of 60 million plus in that situation. What a dire scenario it all is. With stats like that, it's hard to know how to respond or what to do. But thank God someone is doing something. The UNHCR is amazing in its reach into these global crisis zones, reaching out to provide support to millions of disadvantaged people. It can't do everything, but at least it's doing something. And the programs that it runs and the aid it provides change lives of millions of people. And it's Australia for UNHCR, with its very existence, that represents an opportunity for us to participate in our own small way in that undertaking. Its work locally is exemplary in raising funds, in creating awareness, and in providing practical support. So we are delighted to partner with Australia for UNHCR. They have a great vision. They have great people through the board, the staff, the volunteers, the ambassadors, everybody involved. They achieve great results. And underpinning all that is the fact that it's a great cause that they work for. This World Refugee Day breakfast is essentially about our own basic humanity. What do we think and feel about our fellow human beings in trouble? And if we ever lose that perspective, I think we're all in trouble. At home, we tell our kids that there's never been a better time to be alive in terms of health and wealth and opportunity. And that, secondly, Australia, by any measure you cut it, is the best place on earth to live. So add those two things together and you conclude that we are the most fortunate people here and now in Australia who have ever lived. Now, you can disagree with that, and individual people's circumstances can be very trying, but I think at a general level, it's got to be pretty close to the mark. So our challenge to them is, our children, not to be complacent, but know how good you've got it, and know the struggles that your fellow human beings face, and then do something about it. So that's my challenge to all of us today as well. It's great that we're here in support, and we thank you so much for being part of that. But let's not leave it there. Let's go on, let's learn the stats, let's learn the issues, let's take some personal involvement, become an ambassador of sorts, like Marta, like Ian, and like others who participate in that way and do a very effective job so that we can all help Australia for UNHCR continue to make a real difference. So thank you for your attendance and your contribution today. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you.